I'm uncomfortable with this. This doesn't feel right to me. This doesn't feel like you want all of me. It feels like you just want my body. And that hurts my heart. Hi, I'm Mary, certified relationship coach, Christian sex educator, empty nester, and happy jet skiing wife who believes God's design for sex in marriage is too good to stay quiet about.
And I'm Katie Ann, senior pastor, wife, mom to four kiddos, and I always love having some fun, even when we're diving into the deep and holy conversations about marriage and sex.
So, welcome to the Sexual Wholeness Revival podcast. Today is one of my favorite episodes because this is our Q&A day. We pulled questions that are coming in from YouTube channel, from podcast, from all kinds of social media outlets. And let me tell you, some of these are quite hot, quite sensitive, quite meaningful. And we're going to surprise you because, hey, I was surprised when I read them. So once again, if I ever needed to say, please let this recording be careful around little ears, today would definitely be one of those days. But we're just glad you're here and glad that you are going to enjoy some of these questions too.
Yeah, Mary, I love the Q&A portion because I think it's so helpful. So many people have questions, and I think sometimes
Yeah.
they just get too afraid to ask. They're too just scared of being the one to ask the question. So when they
Yeah.
come, I love it because there's probably more than one person that has these questions. I'm going to read you some questions today, and I'm really excited about it because you do such a great job of answering them. The first question is from a wife in your group, I believe, your marriage group. Is that correct? Or your Facebook
Yes, it
group?
is. Yes.
And the question is, I want sex more than my husband, and I get frustrated that he doesn't seek me out and initiate it or accept it when I bring it up. Physical intimacy is more important to me than emotional intimacy, but emotional intimacy is more important to him than physical intimacy. So if he's not feeling connected to me, he has a hard time wanting to have sex because his heart isn't in it. What can I do?
Yeah, I love that ending. What can I do? And I really love how well that she articulated this because it totally captured what's going on with her and what she senses is going on with him. I think an additional level of frustration that she has is that she is a female experiencing this where these are typically scenarios that males are describing. So she's feeling a little bit like, what's wrong with me? Why am I different from
Right.
other women? But I love also that she has acknowledged the difference between emotional intimacy and physical intimacy. And we unpacked often what emotional safety is and that place where you're seen and heard, that place where there's trust, and that place where you are valued. So every human being wants those things. It's incredibly important if you are about to be very vulnerable and very exposed in sex. I think what my first suggestion would be is to understand what emotional safety means to both of them, and then to try to get on the same page there or the same appreciation, even if it's different. And let that be a starting place for conversation. And that way, the idea of what happens during sex is secondary. And it should always be secondary because emotional safety, we want to always be first because that's foundational. We only want to take our intimacy as far as our level of trust is. And it may feel a little awkward, like, what? We're going back to the beginning, but you can rebuild a foundation if you are both pursuing that and both desire that really strong foundation.
Yeah, and I would even ask the question back to her as to why emotional intimacy is more of a challenge for her or less important, as she stated too, because the importance of having both those together makes the
Yeah.
experience much more incredible. So I would also encourage her to do some exploring and some searching as to why that emotional side for her is maybe more of a challenge, to feel emotionally connected and really explore that within herself. What is causing that belief system to happen inside of her?
That's great. That's great. Well, I have one for you, Katie Ann, and get ready, get ready. So, this was an anonymous question, and it says, is oral sex wrong as a Christian? And let me just qualify, is it wrong as a married Christian?
That is a question. I think a lot of us want to have a set of rules.
Mm,
Sometimes, if we feel uncomfortable with something in our marriage, such as
mm-hmm.
oral sex, we sometimes look for the rules, the do's and don'ts. But when it comes to oral sex, it needs to come from that place of mutual respect and
Yes.
mutual agreement. And that we've talked
Mm,
about that in past episodes. And so, if you need to go back and listen to those, I recommend it. But talking about mutual consent, mutual
mm,
respect is always important. But also, oral sex isn't wrong. It's
mm,
based on what that mutual respect, consent, agreement is in your marriage. I don't believe there's anything wrong with it. God made our bodies, He made
mm.
them to operate in the way that they do. And
Yeah.
it can be a really another fun avenue in the
Mm-hmm.
bedroom.
Yeah, and I'll throw in one practical tip in regards to that. There, in the scenario, if a wife does not have as high of a sex drive as a husband, she might offer oral sex to her husband, knowing that his needs are being met. Oh, I just used that phrase I don't like to use. But his desires are being addressed, and she's giving that to him. And that way, the fact that she wasn't as interested means that she did not have to put herself into that position, but she could still give to him. So a win-win there.
Yeah. And it's a great question. It's a great question to ask. I don't think that there is any hard set rules, if you
Mm,
will, about it. It really comes back down to the mutual respect in the relationship. All
yes.
right. I have a question for you, Mary. What do you do when it's tough to want the pleasure when you're
Mm,
menopausal, excuse me, with vaginal atrophy, and there's pain when it comes with it. Pain is it happens to women as we age. Our
mm-hmm,
bodies and our hormones, they change, and it can be a lot harder for us, and it shows up in the bedroom. So the question
mm-hmm.
is around menopause and what happens with vaginal atrophy. And there's pain, and it's just not fun. What do you do?
Absolutely. First of all, I would encourage the woman to do the medical research. What else can she do to support her body? Whether it is some type of hormone or hormone replacement, whether it is a different type of lubricant, and also thinking about different positions where her body is going to be more easily engaged. So the little bit of research on her side, and certainly from a medical point of view. But of course, lots of conversations with her husband. Does he know that she has pain? Or is she keeping it hidden? Because it is a delicate topic. And if he's not experiencing pain, he may not understand. Wait, this is the same thing we've always done. Why does it hurt now? Bringing some of that to the light would be important. And one of the things, and it's great that this question follows what we just said, is that there are other types of pleasure besides intercourse. And this might be the time for them to consider that. And oral sex could be one of them. And there, because of the position of the body, there's not as much pressure, there's not as much weight as during intercourse. So that might open up a brand new avenue. And just knowing that their closeness, their connection is the number one priority. So maybe each one of them need to be giving more words of affirmation and affection, lots
Right.
of affection to fill in the gaps right now.
Yeah. And this is a great example of where building that emotional intimacy really can make a difference for people
Mm-hmm.
navigating this situation. And it happens for a lot of marriages, but that emotional intimacy will help as you have the conversations, the tough
Yeah.
conversations around the changes that are happening in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is another important reason why emotional intimacy is just as important as physical intimacy. Is this question came in anonymously. Number 4 is I am upset that I saw in my husband's hidden photos pictures of me sitting by my vanity, dyeing my hair, taken without my knowledge. I would have
Mm.
no problem posing for him privately. However, when I saw them, I felt objectified because I was unaware he took them. I politely confronted him and he said, people take pictures of others all the time without their consent. I said, not naked and vulnerable. Am I wrong for feeling this way? And how can I communicate that this isn't intimacy?
This is a delicate question, and unfortunately, it's not the first time that this has come across my desk, so to speak. And it usually, there's a place where the husband's behavior, he's justifying it. And he gives a whole list of reasons about why he's doing it. I remember a former client, and he had some physical ailments, and he was using sex as a way to alleviate pain. And that was how he justified it. Oh, this is a part of my process to alleviate the pain. And that's not at all what she's saying here, but it does feel like he's using his proximity to her, using his proximity to her body for his own gain. And it comes across as very selfish. Definitely, I like that she captured the idea that it was without her consent. And since we frame so many of our answers about things needing to be mutual and having that agreement and that consent, that is vital. And being able to speak up if you're not quite in this situation but you're suspicious, then being able to speak up and let your spouse know, I'm uncomfortable with this. This doesn't feel right to me. This doesn't feel like you want all of me. It feels like you just want my body. And that hurts my heart. That doesn't seem like a covenant marriage and a covenant expression of love. So many conversations need to happen here.
Yeah.
And truthfully, I did respond already specifically to this post and suggest getting an outside trained professional to have a conversation with them, because this is a red flag. And I am sure there would be all kinds of emotions stirred up and people on the defensive to dive into it. So having an umpire there and someone to guide them to get to a deeper issue that's going on, because you can stay in the frenzy
Yeah.
of the hurt and never solve the problem. And we don't want that to be the case. We want to get to the root to bring healing and then restoration going forward. But it won't change and it won't be addressed unless you do go ahead and do that deep dive.
Yeah. And when it feels violating, is broken. And so
Yeah.
that then can reveal or create a bigger issue of lack of trust in the relationship. And like you
Yes.
said, getting that professional help to really understand, why are we in a cycle of broken trust, and
Mm-hmm.
where did this come from, and how do we go about healing from it. And so anytime there's a violation, and this obviously feels like a violation for her, and
Mm-hmm.
so I would encourage that, of also looking at it through the lens of, I want to have trust for you. This does not build trust. This does
Yeah.
not build my trust for you. And getting that help, it's really important. And your marriage is worth it. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah,
worth it. Get the help. It's worth it. Okay.
absolutely.
So, next question. I love this question a little bit more, not as emotionally heavy, maybe. But
Yes,
the
yes.
next question is from a YouTube podcast male viewer. So, some guy is asking the questions on YouTube, and I love it. It takes boldness and courage. So, his question is: what are practical steps that a single man can take to learn physical and mental aspects of sex outside of porn? Great question. Such a great question.
Yes, and I love that he knows there's a difference between
Yes.
what porn might teach and what a godly version is. And Anne and we were talking before we started recording about some specific books for men, about the whole realm of how to show up as a husband from a standpoint of wanting to provide that safety and that security and that leadership from a godly point of view. So just being a godly man, having some mentoring in that realm is going to be helpful. And there can be some books for that. As a matter of fact, I know we have some upcoming episodes where we are going to do some book studies. But if you're curious, I'm going to go ahead and put some links for men's books in the show notes here. And then we will let you know when that new podcast comes out. So books can be helpful, but a mentor will absolutely be the best possible
Yes.
help. In this
Yes.
situation, it could be another man that you respect, a leader in the church, a family member that you have seen their life, their lifestyle choices, and you know that is something that you want in your life. They might be able to provide that mentorship, or a godly couple that could meet with you and begin to unpack that. So that is really going to help. Certainly, there are books written specifically about sex. I'm just glad that he's not wanting more tutorials off of YouTube, because we
Yes.
can't trust everything that we see. And unless you know the source, then I would be cautious. Now, that being said, I have never been spammed by porn on my website, on my YouTube. Glory to God. And I talk about enough issues you would think it would creep into my feed, but I'm very thankful that hasn't happened. But some people are just fall prey to that, and it's by nothing that they did. So anyhow, just looking for the mentors, looking for the godly resources, that would be my recommendation at this point.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's where finding, like you said, I just want to re-emphasize, if you can find someone within relational context that you can have these conversations with, that's probably a better route. And it also is another way that I'm hopeful that the church will get better at having these kinds of conversations so that we can teach and educate the next generation in healthy, godly ways instead of just leaving it to chance or social media or YouTube to be teaching
Right.
these things to our kids. That's a great question. Great answer, Mary. Thank you. Now, this is the last questions from the same viewer. And he asks, on your podcast, you most often mention as long as it's mutual, nothing is to be left out. What is dirty talking and what is flirty talking?
And that's such a fun question, because that can definitely be a part of sexual intimacy in marriage. And dirty talking that is not coarse and something that is playful for the spouses is great. One of the practices that I encourage couples to go through is to give labels and language to sexual body parts, so that you're on the same page as to what feels comfortable. And if you don't, then you just come into marriage expressing yourself as you always have, and your spouse might look at you sideways and go, "Oh, where did you learn that term? And that is not comfortable for me." I know I had a client years ago who said, "My husband talks to me like locker room language, and I don't like it at all." And
Yeah.
I tolerated it for years and then finally spoke up. And she said it was an easy fix, but I
Yeah.
had to come forward and to say that. Now, I don't know that you're going to be all these and thous, although I did have a client who wanted her spouse to read Shakespeare and sonnets as a part of their
That's so
romantic
fun.
experience. And hey, it can have its place. You might
Yeah.
need to know what they're actually saying, or it will not be as flirty as you want it to be. But I don't necessarily see many couples using scientific terms in the bedroom unless that is their comfort level. And that's okay. Whatever you agree on for how you're labeling body parts and how you're labeling sexual activity. So that's a starting place. And then being able to be playful and teasing. And I think maybe the dirty talking could be something more limited to the bedroom activities, whereas the flirty talking can happen lots of other ways. I definitely encourage texting through the day to stay connected, and you can certainly flirt that way. It can be playful. I know that when we have families and children and them watching mom and dad flirt with each other is really fun and fresh. And then they realize, oh, that's normal. That's typical, being able to flirt. So that can use pet names for each other. That can be teasing about what you're going to do later. Once again, being appropriate according to the ears that are around you. But letting that be a lively part of your communication just keeps things light and keeps things engaging. So you don't have to get stuck in a routine, that you can have this kind of activity going on at the same time.
Yeah. It also goes back to that mutual agreement, the mutual trust. And it really is another place to grow relational and emotional intimacy. This is another
Yeah.
way where if you have that foundation of relational intimacy, if something feels off, you have that foundation that you can say, "Hey, that missed the mark for me. Can you adjust that?" or whatever. But without that intimacy, it's going to have a direct impact on your physical intimacy too. And so this is another great reason to have those tough conversations, lots of conversations about this stuff. It's your given right in a covenant marriage that you get to talk about this stuff. You get to do this stuff. It's all part of the beautiful design of what God and the gift that God has given us. So, yes, flirty talking is super fun, and I love that that is a question. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, yeah. At this time in our podcast, we usually talk about resources that we have that we encourage you all to check out. And I want to highlight Katie Ann and the counseling that she does. And knowing that she is available to talk to you all. This is faith-based counseling,
Yes.
equipping her clients to build that healthy foundation for relationships and to strengthen connection. She's with Resolute Ministries, and I will put the link in the show notes if you want to book a call with Katie Ann. And I know she does a consultation call to find out if it fit to work
Yes.
together. So that would be great for you to check out what Katie Ann does. And you get to sample all of her wisdom on our podcast. So you absolutely know that she's got a whole gold mine that she draws from when she shares with her clients.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary, for the shout out. I appreciate that so much. And until next time, let's bring back wholeness.